Kirsten Landman, I want to do that "we're not worthy" bow, but Tyler's not going to allow me. She's going to shout. You know when I go down and I bow like this? Because what you achieved is sensational. I know it's not your first rodeo out in the Dakar, but this was unassisted. You, how can I put it? I'm trying to explain to people. Thanks for joining me on the show, by the way, and coming up from Cape Town. We really appreciate that. How do you describe to people how you did Dakar? Because it's like the desert. You by yourself. You're fixing your own bike. You're sleeping out there. It's rough, man. Oh. It's another level. Maybe just explain to us. Can I just do this? Yes. Tyler's going to shout, and she gets very aggressive.
Firstly, thanks, yes. Lucky to be here with you. How I did it, I keep getting asked that question, and there's no recipe, I don't think, but I think it's a whole lifelong of racing, being on a bike since the age of 8, and as we all have struggles through our lives, and being an athlete or just a businessman we were saying earlier, just hustling, it teaches you to, you keep pushing, and, going to Dakar 2023, oh my gosh, I never expected that. I really went there a bit ignorant. And the old saying goes, ignorance is bliss. But yes, the weather forecast that was thrown at us, it wasn't on the weather forecast. It wasn't predicted. So it caught everyone off guard. And it certainly caught us off guard,
It rained in the desert. Are you kidding me?
Torrential rain. Like the one stage, we got to kilometer 350, checkpoint 2. They pulled us off the tracks. We had to do a 200-kilometer liaison home in this rain. My bike was running. I had to lean it sideways just to counteract for the wind being blowing against us. And it wasn't just like we couldn't go faster because we're getting chaperoned by an organizer car. And we're going like max 90 k's an hour, but now you got wind and rain coming at this angle. It's freezing cold, and it's just 200 k's at 90 k's an hour. It took us 2 hours to get home. It was painful. It was cold, and
like Cape Town
you've just raced for 350 k's. You've been on the bike since 4 o'clock that morning, and then you're getting back in the dark. And they cancelled the stage because the water was just too dangerous to be out on the track. That was when the cars carried on. The bikes were cut off. There's videos of the trucks way over their tires in these rivers that just came out of nowhere. I mean, Saudi Arabia gets 7 days of rain a year, and it happened on the 7 days of the 14 stages at Dakar. But I haven't seen rain like that. It was actually quite scary, and it just never let up.
Well, thank goodness you made it through. But the Malimoto, I think for those that don't know, means that you start and finish by yourself without a team. You the mechanic, you the driver, you the masseuse, I suppose. You do all of these things, right?
Everything.
Is it like when you go to bed, you're like, oh my word, what? There must have been moments where you're like, what am I doing?
No, stage 2, I already broke. I broke on stage 2, yeah. That was my first crack. My first of many.
Wow.
And it was just like, because that was the ignorance coming through, and I was like, I said to Bryony, she was there with me, my partner, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, because I certainly, this was just solely speaking, this was before the weather hit us. This was just 2 days of really long stages and really long liaisons, and probably averaging both days 12, 13 hours on the bike per day. And then you were dealing with the cold as well, and this is before the rain even came, and the riding was so difficult. They really threw, in those first 2 stages, I mean, the first stage, I think, was 350 odd Ks. In the second stage, we did 430 kilometers. And I remember just putting on social media that was the hardest Dakar stage I've ever done. This is just speaking in reference to Dakar 2020. And it was just one of the hardest days I've had on a motorbike. You've got 30 Ks of riding. And you're thinking they've got to let up, surely and it's not just that. Navigation was really hard at the same time. And then you come in, and I was exhausted, and now I know on my way back home I've got to service my bike. I've only done 2 days, and I've got another 12 days to go. And that just, I know it's overwhelming, and I wasn't supposed to think like that, but that was the first crack, and it was just, I cracked every day, but I just carried on. I don't know how, like you asked me just now. I think there's just, there's so much that goes into getting there. And I was supposed to race 2022, and last year was an exceptionally hard year for me. With the news of not going to Dakar and everything thereafter. So it gave me a bit more time to prepare. But I think, like I said, when I released that news of not going to Dakar 2022, everything happens for a reason, because if I think I'd gone in 2022 to race 2022, I wouldn't have been emotionally, I think, ready to take it on, because it was very emotionally taxing. It was physical. It was everything. So I think that extra year of prep and, working with myself and, growing up a lot. I did a lot of growing up last year. Definitely enabled me to get through what happened now in 2023.
When you got the news in 2022, did you, I suppose there was soul searching that had to go in there. Was there a point where you crossed your mind, you're like, what am I doing? Why am I, this is not meant to be? Obviously now in hindsight we can say, well, there's silver lining to it. But did you think at some point you're like, it's clearly not meant to be?
Well, I'm quite spiritual in the sense, and over my career, with it being such a dangerous sport, I kind of believe if it's meant to be, it will be. I've woken up early on in my career. I've woken up in the morning and I've had this feeling, like, that gut feeling, where I shouldn't race. I go out and race and end up breaking my collarbone. So I've learned to listen to that little voice, and it's something like testing positive with 4 proper PCR tests before flying out to Dakar. If there aren't any other red flags,
I was about to say.
It's gambling. You're going to Dakar already and you're gambling. It's such a dangerous race, and there really are so many deaths at Dakar nearly every year. And this year was actually the first year there wasn't a death of a competitor. So to go there,
that continues.
Yes.
In the future,
So you want to go there with all the boxes ticked, and you don't want to go there with already a red flag before you've even taken off.
Yeah.
And I said, Jonas, everything's happening for a reason. And on the 8th of January, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. Oh. So, I would have been mid-race. And for me, family comes first. She passed away in April.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's where the last year was.
I understand then. So there's a lot of setbacks.
Oh, last year was, I was so upset about not going to Dakar. And then I got the news of my mom. And then, she went really quickly. But I moved up to Joburg and I nursed her till her passing. And, I spoke to my sponsors and they were very understanding. ASP initially with the whole COVID thing, they were also like, if this is happening for a reason, we pull it now and we go next year, and they were incredible in the sense that they were going to support me and do what it takes to get to the start line. And then with my mom getting diagnosed with cancer, and then me, I literally didn't ride a motorbike or exercise for the 4.5 months that my mom was sick. I just moved up to Joburg and I nursed her every day. So everyone was understanding, family first. And then, my life kind of kicked off. Straight after that, we moved to Cape Town. And then it was like, okay, now, life goes on, and work towards Dakar. And in that, you say soul searching and working on myself. I did a lot of growing up last year, a lot of maturing, dealt with the biggest loss of my life. I thought not going to Dakar was, family.
Puts it into perspective.
Completely. It puts life into perspective, and how short life is. My mom was only 60.
Oh, no.
1 minute she was fine, completely normal, super intelligent woman, most independent woman you'll ever meet, and super strong. And poof, within 4 months she was gone. So
Cancer's terrible.
As well, just makes you realize that life is so short, and family is important. So
I'm sure she is in heaven, looking down at you, going, "That is my girl." Because Dakar wasn't just about finishing for you. There was a lot more meaning to it, and also, what a lot of people don't realize, and it has come through the media, is that you stopped to save someone. You know what I'm saying? Rescue someone and make sure they were okay. And I saw an interview you did. I know it wasn't the longest time that you were with that person, but at the same time, a minute in Dakar can be the difference between a podium spot.
For sure.
Tell us a bit more. You came across, I know it's a guy that you know very well, you've ridden with before, but what was crossed your mind? Because when I saw your interview, you described like you guys almost went down the one bit and then you landed it and he didn't.
Yeah, just because of our feet positioning. So riding on generally on a motorbike, you ride with your feet on the foot pegs, with underneath, like on the arch of your feet, because that's where you don't want to be too far back, because then you land hard, you can hyperextend, or you don't be too far forward, because then you're going to be on your heels and there's not much control there. So that way, when the foot pegs like this, you've got control back and forward, and movement's good to get to the brake and and the gear lever, and he obviously was just shifted too far back, and as he landed, both, he hyperextended, and that's the break in the one ankle, the sprain in the other, which at the time he thought was both. And it's just so, and you know what? Yes, initially when he fell off the bike in front of me, I was like, whoa, what's going on? Because, and he said to me, my ankles, and I know from his previous injuries, he both broke those ankles. And he wasn't crying and he wasn't in a lot of pain. But the moment I saw that he was okay and wasn't like life-threatening, the first thing that went through my mind, and every time you pass someone in Dakar that's got a mechanical or an injury, is okay, they're okay, but the disappointment.
Yeah.
The sacrifice to get to that race. People sell their houses and go live in storage units.
That's crazy.
And they end up losing their family, because what wife's going to put up with someone living in a storage unit or whatever the case may be, because they dedicate their lives to get to these races. And, for something on such a small, minuscule little, it's a small place and it's so easy to make a mistake. And, Dakar's not just about getting to the stars, getting there fit and the bike's prepped, and you can have the best of everything, but your stars have to align at the same time. It is luck. Dakar, you need luck. You got to, because you're racing 14 stages, 9,000 kilometers. Things are going to go wrong. It's guaranteed. But for them not to go wrong enough to end your race. So when Michelle crashed, I was just heartbroken for the guy, because it could have been me. Because I just because I landed it, that really could have been me, and it could have been my race over. And just the thought of that is gut-wrenching. So glad he's okay, and that's always the best thing, is to see when you see someone that's hurt. You always, they're hurt, but, it could have been a lot worse. And that's always kind of what we think in Dakar, because it's normally a high-speed crash that doesn't end very well. And this year, the guys really got the route really well, in terms of the navigation being a lot harder, slowing the route down, and they obviously made big effort with the road book to notify us, because that's what the road book does. It warns you when there are certain points and what to watch out for. So it was a good rally from their side in terms of planning and road book, because the safety factor showed off in the amount of injuries that there were. So he's on the mend. I mean, Michelle's already back on the bike. So
Kirsten, maybe explain to us a little bit about the route. You said it does become a bit of a surprise at times. Is it true that you find out on the morning of the stage where you're going, or how long it is? Yeah, so previously they used to issue road books the night before, which you would then get your road book, and it was just plain black and white with the whole route for the day, the racing stage, and then you could colour them with highlighters. For instance, a triple caution for me, I'd mark in red. Okay. So that's how you associate things, because you're going so fast, and there's so many things happening at once. You're watching what you're doing. You try and look at the road book. You kind of associate colours with what's coming up at that kilometre reading. So you briefly look at your kilometre reading with your trip meter, and then you're looking down at the direction that you're going and what the colour is. That's mad. Yeah, no, it's multitasking at another level. And what speed are you going at this point? I'm not going anything like the top guys are, but I was averaging between 60, 70, 80 kilometres a day per hour over a 300-400 kilometre special. So my max speed, I'm not the fastest rider because I'm quite scared of speed. My max speed was 127. But the top guys are limited to 160. Okay. And those boys will be on the limit the whole time. 160. Yeah, that's everywhere. That's insane. No, it's crazy. But even so, let's say you're doing 80 k's an hour. You're in the desert. There's dunes. There's rocks. There's the works. And you're now looking at a road book. It's ultimate multitasking. Everyone thinks follow the guy in front of you. But the moment you follow in the guy in front of you, you're not seeing that there's a donga there, because the road book will mark that all for you. It'll tell you that at kilometre 264, you're going to go through a wadi and there'll be a little icon that illustrates a step down and then a step up. If you're looking and you're going 80 or even 100 kilometers an hour, the oak in front of you, hit that thing, boom. Yeah. That's where most accidents happen at Dakar. The guys follow the guy in front of them. They're not following their road book. And also if you're following your road book, you're picking up waypoints. And waypoints is how you stay on track. Yeah. And then also if you miss a waypoint, time penalty. So, you must be thinking, I'm following that guy. And you see him in the distance, because we're in the desert now and there's lots of big open spaces. But you didn't see that he went left and turned there, but you've just seen him there. And you cut across and there's a waypoint eclipse there, and you've now lost 40 minutes. What to make up 30 seconds? No. So that's why the guys say, first thing, never ride faster than you can navigate, and always follow your road book. Having a look at this year's Dakar, looking ahead to next year, has it changed your passion for the Dakar? Because when I first met you, you didn't do the Malimoto,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my word, this is insane. Like, just based on the fact that it is how far it is, and you're out on a bike, you're navigating, you're trying to deal with all the elements, the terrain. But I see that fire's lit.
Yeah.
And obviously 2022 was a very big disappointment. But 2023, there's been a lot to celebrate.
Yes.
So it's 2024. Is it still the fire burning? Because you seem to have a great team around you. I know Brad does some incredible work. But your sponsors also.
Yeah.
Is that fire still burned despite the stage 2 where you're going, oh my word, what am I doing here?
It's funny you actually asked that question. Like after 2020, I kind of got back from that Dakar and I was like, don't know if I want to do it again, because it was hard, but it was more emotionally difficult 2020 being because, from going back to my accident in 2013 being a high-speed accident and now coming across 3 deaths at Dakar 2020 on track, high-speed accidents. And then I was battling with myself mentally, like, you survived 2013, why do you put yourself back into the situation? And there were so many close calls because the race was so fast. And comparing 2020 to 2023, 2020 was like a highway, literally like a highway in terms of technicality of the road book and the riding terrain. So yeah, it's now the difference between then I left that race feeling like I don't want to go back because I felt so unsafe doing it. I'm glad that I've got through it safely. But after 2020, I felt like I hadn't got my true Dakar experience. So I had grown up watching Dakar from a young girl, and South America was where it was at. Chile, Bolivia, Argentina, Peru, and that adventure. And that's why a lot of people love Dakar, because they love that adventure and, crossing borders and going from the Peru deserts and in the dunes at 40-degree heat up into the Andes, and the oaks are battling to breathe because of the lack of oxygen, and it's freezing cold. And then they're in the Amazon and crossing rivers, and then the terrain was just forever changing. And then you've got the people that love the sport so much. So I felt like being in Saudi Arabia, I was kind of missing that sense of adventure. And I know it'll get better in Saudi with the crowds and the awareness, because it's still developing there. It's only been there for 2021, 2, 3, 4 years. So it'll get bigger and better, but I hadn't had that sense of adventure. And, speaking to a lot of people after 2020, everyone said to me, if you want the true Dakar experience, into the original class, which is the Malimoto class. That's how they did Dakar back when it first started.
Cowboys,
45 years ago. So from Paris to Dakar, off you go. Fit what you can on your bike. Here's an 80-litre drum. We'll see you at the next bivouac. Like, frickin' hell, that was adventure, And they've kept the class going on all the years, and that's why they've gone from the Malimoto, meaning Male, meaning trunk, and Moto, meaning bike, and now that's now changed to the original bimotorial class, being in the original class, and they still get, and that's, I thought, I love the mechanical side I love working on my motorbike. It's probably because I'm a bit of a control freak. If something goes wrong, at least I know I'm to blame. And I love the mechanical side of things. Yes, I love riding bikes, but I also like fixing them and cleaning them.
Is that like your happy place?
My garage is my happy place. Okay. It's like my zen zone, I feel very comfortable there, and I really enjoy working on my bike. So because I was, fairly well mechanically equipped, I also thought it's another challenge now. I can get better mechanically equipped to work on my bike. What's the point of racing a bike out in the mountains if you can't fix it? I started
I'm going riding with you, by the way. You can fix our bikes. But it's another part of this mentally, physically draining thing, is that you have to then pick yourself up and go, okay, I have to change the spark plug or whatever it may be. I'm not a mechanic by any means, but you know what I'm saying.
And that sort of stuff is what actually, going into it, I compared it to 2020, thinking that the route, I don't think anyone, and even the comments from the top guys were saying, and some of them had done Africa, then they did the second chapter in South America, and now they've done the third, the few legends, and some of them are saying that they had never done such a difficult Dakar. The stages that these oaks were throwing at us were some of the hardest stages that they've ever ridden at Dakar. And then, it's cool to come back and go park off your camper van, but now I'm thinking on this long liaison home, I've been on the bike for 10, 11 hours, it's raining. I know I've got to get back into the bivouac, try find put up my tent in the rain because now you're thinking on the way back. It's not like you're going to go park off comfy in your warm where you're in the rain, So you're going to be sleeping out in the rain. You've got to put your tent up in the rain. You've got to probably start tomorrow with wet kit. And now you've got to work on your bike in the rain. Because you can't just leave the bike. There is just, if you've had no problems in the day, there's still a few things that you've got to check. And those few things that you've got to check took me at least an hour. And when you're getting back, there's no time to waste. You literally, as soon as you get back, first thing I would do is go get my tent and my mattress, put it up while I was fully kitted. And then from there, I would unkit my kit and hang it out to dry if I could. Put on some clothes, and while this, I'm drinking a recovery shake. Doing, you're multitasking because you can't sit down and have your recovery shake. You've got to do it while you're doing other things. And then while I was doing that, I was trying to eat some food as well. Yeah. Eat and drink recovery shake. And then while I'm doing that, while I'm taking my old kit off, I'm repacking my new kit for tomorrow, getting that all prepped, sorting out my camelback, packing my jacket, plugging my airbag in for its charge for tomorrow. So it took me like 2 or 3 days to get into the routine, because when you first get there, it's very overwhelming. And then you're not close to everything. You have your tent set up over here. Then you've got the big truck with all your stuff in it if you need to it. They'll just put your kit bag out for you because you only had one kit bag with all your stuff in it. And then you've got to walk to your bike, and then walk back, and then walk to the food hall if you want to go get food, or if you want to walk to the toilet, which is on the other side. Then you've got to take your tires off and they've got to get changed. You've got to take them to the BF Goodrich guys. And I was racking up 11,000 steps over the 16, 17 days. I was doing 11,000 steps a day.
Wow.
On top of racing for an average of 10 hours a day. And then you get in 4 or 5 hours max sleep at night. So cool, stage 1 and stage 2. You can feel you're all right, but then stage 3, stage 4, and that's happening every day. That just the fatigue just gets bigger, and you just start making stupid mistakes where you shouldn't. Like out riding, you lack of concentration can result in a crash, which can happen so easily.
Split second.
Yeah, and then you're now on, which I found, which was the hardest part of Dakar, was the liaisons. Which is, so we leave the bivouac, which is the pits, and then we've got a road section. You'll have a liaison A, which is the road section on the public roads in Saudi Arabia to the start of your special stage. You race your special stage, and then you've got another liaison B road section back to the new bivouac. And our bivouacs were moving every second day, so they were changing location. And for me, the liaisons were the hardest part because they were so long. You started them at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It's freezing cold. The one morning we started was 2 degrees. Oh. Some of the mornings we were starting in the pissing rain, excuse my language. You're wet even before you've pulled off. It's ice cold. You're riding in the rain. You can't see. And in that time of where it's that dawn and that dusk of where it's getting dark and it's
visibility
you can't. It's shocking. And then now the fatigue's starting to set in, and people, I used to hear of people, how do you fall asleep on a motorbike? We had a South African legend who did exceptionally well racing Dakar. Alma Simmons fell asleep at Dakar and died. And I thought, come on, you're on a bike. How does that happen? I nearly fell asleep on many occasions, and it wasn't just me. And I got to the start of the one special, I'm like, guys, I can't be the only person falling asleep. I even asked Ross Branch, and he's getting in early every day and sleeping in his camper, and he's like, you had to stop, and I had to stop and do some star jumps and push-ups just to try to get the blood flowing, just to wake myself up.
Wow.
And then you're on the way home, and then you're falling asleep, and it's so frightening, and it just happens like this because you're sitting on these liaisons. I mean, the longest liaison that we did, even before we started racing, was I think 360 kilometers.
Jeez.
So it's like going from here to Harrismith, then racing a stage, and then going back to coming back to Joburg. Like the one day we did 940 kilometers in one day.
That's unreal. And
it's just and that is just day after day after day, and then coming back at night, setting up your tent, servicing your bike. Just the fatigue just got unreal, and then now working on a bike fatigued is a real big problem. Forget to tighten a screw.
I was about to say that's where your attention to detail has to be on point. You can't miss one thing because just not like I would change my engine oil every second day, and I had a liaison, and that night I changed my engine oil, and I was riding on the liaison to the start of the special, and I was like, let me just check if my oil cap was on tight. Get there, it was just on the last thread about to come off. You lose that in a special, you lose all your oil, race is done. So just a small thing, like you screw it back on, but I didn't make it tight enough, because
when you fatigue like this, you're thinking about other things, and then you're looking at other things, and you're not thinking clearly. So you don't think to go get the what do you call, pliers and tighten it just so it nips it, But it's just small things like that that could really end your race that you don't think about. That's something I never even considered going into Dakar with doing Malemoto, the fatigue side of things. But it's actually such a normal thing. Fatigue is normal, but that sort of fatigue I've never experienced in my life.
So can I say it's the longest grueling race that mentally tests you and demands that the finest margins are taken care of?
Oh, 100%.
Because it seems like the odds are stacked against you.
From the
in this
get-go.
thing.
It's like
We've
the Hunger
actually got
Games.
Well, you hear, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Katniss. Tyler, I know you're up here for some talks. You're doing some motivational talks and
Yes.
your story, which is incredible. I believe they've been going down very, very well. You've shared some photos with us. Tyler, do you mind just pulling up those photos? Because let's just have a look here. I feel like I'm asking about your holiday. It certainly wasn't a holiday.
No, it wasn't a holiday.
But I mean, the moments there, you can see like...
That was at the finish line. I can't tell you that the feeling of crossing the finish line. And for Bryony and myself, that's my partner there, Bryony.
Yeah.
This was also exceptionally emotional for her because half the time when we were racing, or we had 2 marathon stages, she wouldn't, and their comms, where they were based in the bivouac, they didn't have really good cell phone reception. So there would be 2 days she hadn't heard from me.
No,
and then
that's
you hear of
stressful.
a motorbike having an accident, and then then they know that we're out there, we've been pulled off the track because the rain is so bad because the routes are flooded. So for her, it was also exceptionally difficult.
There's some great photos here.
Look how wet everything is.
I was about to
We
say,
didn't
is
have-
that the desert?
We didn't have any dust at Dakar. In Dakar 2020, my lungs were blowing from all the dust. This year we had no dust just because everything was so wet, and in some parts it makes the route easier to ride, but in other parts it makes it exceptionally hard because now you've got the cars catching you, and the cars are catching us very quickly. There's actually a picture of a scroll up.
Yeah.
There's actually go down. Sorry, go down. I'll tell you when to stop.
I'm just amazed that there's mountains.
Yeah,
This
stop
is
there.
The desert,
So, Go up.
Wow.
No, other way. Yeah, there,
Yeah.
there. Look at that. So look at that rut there. I don't know if you can enlarge this
Yeah,
photo.
can we click on that one?
This middle one here. Yeah,
But
that's
look at
okay.
the landscape, though. It's unbelievable.
So now that's a rut from cars.
Jeez.
So a lot of the stages, the cars were catching us at already like kilometer 70, 80 because they were so fast. And now you're kilometer 70, 80 of 400, 350 kilometers. And a lot of the stages were like this sandy in between these rocky areas. And now that becomes really impossible to ride because you can't go off the track because there's rocks off on the side of the track. And you've got to stay in this rut. And then there's cars coming past you. So you've got to try to get out of this rut. And this rut is deep. And then there's hidden rocks a lot of the way under the sand because the cars are flicked over it and it's dug
crazy.
deep. So that was a real big battle. You can see me. I'm dabbing there.
Yeah,
and it's
wow.
really hard to ride because it's this massive rut, and the faster you go, the easier it is to ride. But also at the same time, all these other rocks have come up underneath because you've dug deeper, and it was just difficult to ride. And then now you get a car beeping you from behind. He's coming at you at 130 k's an hour, and you get in their way. They don't move for you.
So is there any etiquette?
There was like top 4 cars, and there were some cars in the back that were incredible. Because you can see which navigator or car driver was a previous bike rider because they know what it feels like to be passed by a car and how scary it is.
Yeah.
But there were some really nasty guys that I complained about because they come past you. They're supposed to beep you because they can see you, and then they send off an alarm to let you know that, and then we move out the way as quick as we can.
Yes.
We are not going to. I promise you now.
But if you're stuck in a rut like that,
I'm not going to get in the way of the car because we're going to
ways.
come off second best. So we
Absolutely.
will always try to get out the way as quickly as we can. And they will pass you this close and not at a safe speed, at a stupid speed.
see, I look at these desert pictures and that's what I think of. But then there were photos of mountains and rocks and mud.
Yeah.
I mean, it really tests you. What I would like to find out.
Look at the size of that dune.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's mad.
Come on. I've never seen such
It's
big
beautiful,
dunes.
though.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
But scary. And I've done Dakar in 2020. I've done Rally du Maroc. I've done 4 or 5 fairly good rallies. But this Dakar, CS, I can't even tell you the riding that they gave us. And I was thinking, how are cars and trucks going to get through this? And they did. They got through it. but it was, and they put waypoints for us to navigate to get to these. They put a waypoint on the side of a dune that you would have to like rail the side of it to get up, and there was like dunes that I hit 4 or 5 times to try and get up this dune because it was so big. Yeah.
Just looking at this, it's incredible. And when you are doing your talks, and people must, if you can, reach out to find out more, because I think you've got such an incredible story, and we could talk for a very long time. Is it the message of perseverance, of mental toughness, of believing in yourself? Because you can say, yes, you're doing this to achieve something and your own part of history, or be part of something special and inspire people. But what is your key message that you're trying to sort of portray here? Because, Kirsten, this is phenomenal. I mean, as I say, I'm not worthy. I mean, I'm in the presence of some greatness here. But what is the key message you want people to know? Because this tests you on so many levels. I mean, you question yourself as a rider, as an athlete, as a human being.
I think, I look back, me being here is a whole lifelong journey of experiences to have done this race, and this race, finishing Dakar 2023, doing it in Malel Motor, completely unassisted, was certainly the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Race. And, the 8-year-old little Kirsten that dreamed of being a sportswoman when she was asked to draw a picture of what she wanted to be when she grew up, and holding on to that dream. And, there have been so many people that have told me, teachers that have told me, chance of you being a professional sports person is a 1 in a million shot, but it comes along with some belief and trust in your ability. And, of course, I've had a very supportive group around me as my career's grown, starting just with my family as a young little girl. And then, being in a male-dominated industry as a female, and, this is no place for, I've been told, this is no place for women, and women breaking the boundaries and going to things and doing the Dakar and then finishing classes like, Malemoto, servicing their own bike. I mean, that's back then that was unheard of, and me growing up there was nothing like that. But I never kind of looked at it in the sense that I want to be that pioneering, groundbreaking woman to set the precedent. It was more of me living my dream, because I started riding a motorbike because I loved it and I fell in love with the sport, and it gave me that sense of accomplishment because it is so physically difficult, and then also because obviously I love the sport and I love the adventure of it. But also, there's been so many things in my career that have knocked me down, from financials to injuries to, everything from being told I can't do this, shouldn't be here. But I mean, that has been my inspiration. Tell me I can't do something, and it kind of lights that flame, and it makes me push to go into something. And as well, going back to your question, what is it? How have I done it? I think it's having been brought up to believe that I can do anything I ever wanted to do. So if my parents always said to me, you can achieve anything you ever want to if you just do it with, there's no substitute for hard work, and it comes with a lot of sacrifice. And it has, and any professional sports person that sits in this seat can say the same thing. It comes with a lot of hard work and sacrifice. But if you just keep working at it, and you get knocked down, you're not going to get knocked down once. You're going to get knocked down many times. I mean, Dakar, I was knocked down every stage, but I didn't give up. And it's just believing in yourself and just pushing through, and just staying true to yourself is also a big thing. That's got me to where I am in my career. I haven't been through a lot of difficulties with dealing with who I am and who I'm working with. And, as an athlete, you want to get sponsored, but, you got to stick to what's right, and you got to believe in yourself and stick to your truths and your morals that you believe are right. And as I've got older in my career, that's so important, and, it's no secret recipe. It's just dedication, and it's time, and it's trust the process, and if it's meant to be, it'll be. And if you want it hard, if you want it enough, you'll make sure you have it. It will happen.
You said you've been knocked down a few times, and I don't know if many people realize in 2013 you were involved in a serious crash in Botswana, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
And to the point where it was touch and go for you.
Yeah.
And if you think back to that sort of point, and where you've come now, you know, there's been a lot of hard graft, a lot of perseverance, but that moment there when you were basically in a hospital, you didn't know what was. Did you sort of like think that one day you would go on to do something like this? Because I'm sure, firstly, there your body is broken.
Yeah.
Mentally, you there's confidence is gone because, as you said, with speed, and it is a race. It's a sport that is dangerous.
Yeah.
But now you've been able to overcome that. Go to one of the toughest places to ride in the toughest conditions, and you've owned it.
I think, you know, it probably goes back to that, call it stubborn, or, you know, most people thought I would die, and the doctors thought I would. My doctor, as it was after my last checkup with me, said to me, you know, you're a living miracle. I mean, I never believed in miracles until here you are in front of me now because of my conditions were so bad. And
I mean, your body, like
everything went septic.
Yeah, you were in a terrible
shut down,
state.
Yeah, no, my doctor, he's at young, yes, age and fitness, but the condition that you were in, I don't know how you pulled through. And that's where he also said it makes me believe in a higher being. But then again, also having gone through what I've gone through in my life, you know, when it's your time, it's your time, and it doesn't matter how you're going to go. You can't control that. You know, I had all the odds against me, but here I am, alive today and living to tell the tale. But, you know, from that accident, I had a massive turnaround in my life. You know, me as a person and who I am, and identifying who I am as well. I had to turn around in the sense that, you know, I was a little bit probably arrogant and thought, you know, 21, 22-year-old invincible, super fit.
As you do.
Yeah. And I thought that I was bulletproof, and that also made me realize how fragile the human body is and how short our time on earth can actually really be. And then also, you know, stay true to yourself. I was, at the time, unsure of who I was, you know, thinking back now, I'm being gay since the day I was born, you know. And I knew. Now I look back now, and it's not like it was a choice, you know, this is who I am. But growing up, it wasn't really an option, you know, not that it is an option for us. You know, people don't decide they're gay one day, but it wasn't like it was, I was brought up to believe that it's not accepted, you know.
But South Africa is, to a large extent, is still like that. You're still getting people going, oh, that's gay. And they're like, do you actually realize what you're saying and how you can hurt someone?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think a lot still has to be done for people to realize that perception has to change.
It has to change.
It's
we aren't
archaic.
any normal people, different. We are normal human beings.
You don't look like you're, you know what I mean? You're not an alien or something.
No.
You're a human being.
We bleed the same blood.
Come on.
And it's not like I was born this way and that was...
Sorry, it drives me crazy
no,
when I hear
it does,
things
it
like
does,
this,
it does as well. And I was at the time not ashamed of who I was because at that time, I mean, I was 21. It was 10 years ago, and it wasn't out and as open and as socially accepted as it is today. And also with my upbringing, it was like that. So for me to just say, Mom, I think I'm gay, wasn't really an option. I had to. My sister was very accepting of it because she was, you know, we younger generation, it was around us a bit more, but the older generation, like our parents, not so much. No. And, you know, once you make that decision, it's your decision for the rest of your life. You know, you can't be gay one day and the next day, you know, like, no, I want to be straight today, you know. But also I knew because going into having this accident, I had met a girl and I had never had an experience with a woman before, and then I knew, okay, well, this is it, you know. And I had my accident, and I woke up from that accident, and I thought to myself, flip, Kirst, if you had died, you know, yes, at a very young age, 22, 21 years old, and you hadn't owned up to your true self and lived your true self because you were worried what other people would think, like, you can't live like that. And that's when I woke up, and it wasn't like a FU attitude, but it was, life is short. I'm not going to ever take a day for granted, and I'm going to live life the way that I want to live my life. And if you don't like it, you're not worth my time. And, you know, that was it. I just, you know, came out alive and, you know, didn't openly come out with the gay flag and say I'm gay to the world. I just slowly transitioned into the person I am today, and I've got a beautiful wife. And
congratulations on getting married. And
I got married last year, so it's just transition. And at the time, you know, I'm going to lose sponsors. They're not going to accept you for this, and you're going to lose friends. And if anything, everyone has been incredibly supportive, but it doesn't define me for who I am.
Of course,
it doesn't change who I am. I'm still the same person. But it's just that accident was a massive turning point in my life in terms of me as a person. And then also thereafter for my racing career, I was like, now I'm going to take it. Yes, I nearly died, but I'm alive. And there's nothing more I love than riding a motorbike. And yes, selfish in a sense that my family went through a lot while I had the accident. And every time I swing a leg over a motorbike going forward, my mother, terrified.
I can imagine.
Because they were there at the bedside. They're the ones dealing with the doctors. She's going to make it. She's not going to make it. Then they're rushing me in and out of the emergency room because my infection rates got so high and they've got to clean me out. So they were living. I was out. I was in a coma on a life support. So I literally woke up thinking it was the next day. Had no idea what had happened to me. And it was 2 weeks later.
Wow.
So for them, they dealt with, Mama had to go to trauma counseling after my accident. And every day I swung my leg over a motorbike, she would just think. And then going to Dakar in 2020 was like terrifying for her because she knew the dangers of Dakar, as most people do. But then again, she still supported me because she knew I loved it and this was the biggest love of my life. And so, coming back from that accident, I was like, I'm not going to go fast again. I'll stick to the hard enduro, which is what I enjoy more anyway. But it taught me a lot about life and, just life lessons. And I was lucky, and I look back at it now and I don't regret it because it's changed my life for the better. And not many of us get given a second chance at life.
And I think that's why it was just important to highlight that sort of watershed moment in your life, even though at the time it's scary and tragic, and thank goodness that you're here today with us to tell your story, but it has given you a second chance, a second lease on life. And we've got a few more minutes, but what I want to ask you is, on your sleeve, I know your passion for animals, and Sam I was fortunate to meet. Tell us how's that going in terms of, have you been able to sort of raise some funds there? How's the feedback been? Because I know you're incredibly passionate about animals. Yeah,
there's probably, as over the years, as I've got a bit older, there's a bigger passion that I have than biking and it's animals. Because, I've always grown up around animals as a kid, and being out in the bike, we tend to go quite a few rural areas, and you're out in, very rural places across Africa, and there's always animals and stuff. And I see an animal, my heart breaks because they're so helpless. And I've learned the love of a dog. They're the most unconditional love.
That's the best.
And I've got five kids of my own, and Sammy being my little number one. She's like me, but in a dog version.
That's why you guys get on so well.
Exactly. And she's the apps, and Bryony knows she is the love of my life. Sammy first, then Bryony, and then everyone else.
She's the leader of the pack.
She's such a cute dog. And I rescued her from Friends of Rescued Animals here in Joburg, and just, all my dogs are rescues. And through Sam, it's I don't necessarily do too much fundraising. I do more food drives and blanket drives.
Okay.
And if I do fundraising, it's just through my personal sales of socks and T-shirts, like fundraising, where I'll donate 50% towards Sam, and then I'll pay for inoculations.
Is that through your website? Where can people do that if they want to get involved? Do you watching or listening?
I need to, because obviously now I'm getting out a bit more in the public eye, and I am talking about Sam. I need to set up a page on my website where people can donate and know more about it. So I will work on that.
They can reach out through social media,
yes,
if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I know Instagram, you're very active.
Yeah, Instagram and Facebook I'm most active on. And then on my website, there are my contact details. Cool. So if you want to reach out through that, you can. But yeah, it's just because I'm now got a bit of a following, so I can spread the word of rescue, adopt kind of thing, food drives, and I'm actually partnering with one of my sponsors now in a bigger way of raising funds to buy food. So
excellent.
Look out for something like that, which is cool, and just education as well.
Is Sammy still chasing tennis balls?
Oh, she doesn't stop. Hasn't stopped.
I remember when I first met you, I think just before your first Dakar, you threw a tennis ball into a dam, and the next thing I just see this little dog just hurtling and diving straight in and getting tennis.
She's crazy. She's 2 cruciate ligament operations down now.
She's got to slow it down, eh?
She doesn't know. She only knows one speed. And I try to throw the ball slower for her, and she knows, like, even if I throw it between here and there, she'll go the same speed. Yeah. She's just ball mad. But again, she's like her mother. She'll dedicate everything 110%. There's no half-assed. It's just all in or nothing.
So when you're not doing Dakar, what do you do? What do you do to just relax. Obviously, spend a lot of time with Sam
Yeah,
and
the dogs.
the dogs, and the Cape Town move now. And
Cape Town's changed a lot. I've spent a lot more time in the sea now. It is colder than Durban, but it's a bit cleaner.
some big sharks in that sea, hey?
I haven't seen any. I don't plan on. But yeah, I enjoy surfing, so I've been
Yeah.
spending a bit more
was gonna
time on the
say, yeah.
surfboard. Hiking is so nice. Do a bit more road cycling now that there's some nice cycle lanes in Cape Town. Spend a lot of time outdoors, which I enjoy. It's a very outdoors kind of place, Cape
Yeah.
Town, and and obviously work-wise, it's the training schools, and it's now with all of this sort of stuff, and just setting up some stuff for the future. So I keep myself busy.
What does the future look like? I'm curious because you can't do Dakar for the rest of your
No.
life. I mean, there will be a point where you're like, well, I've got to hand the baton over because you're a pioneer, you're a history maker, you're a proud South African, a proud woman who's achieved remarkable things.
Yeah.
But what does the future hold? Because I think the motivational speaking will continue because of what
Yeah.
you've achieved, but you're also a role model, not only to young women or girls or anything like that, but to everyone in South Africa, because there's not a lot of hope in South Africa right now, unfortunately.
I think we've got so much talent in South Africa, and I think we should, as South Africans, should focus on the good as opposed to the bad, because there is so much bad going on, and our sports teams are doing exceptionally well at the moment. So for me, in the future, looking at, I'll always be involved in motorsport. Motorsport's my life. In terms of what direction I want to go in, I myself probably maybe have another 1 or 2 Dakars left in me on a bike. In the
Mali
interim.
Moto?
Yes, I won't go back and do any other
Okay,
class.
so original classes.
Yeah, that for me was, yes,
the
it
colours,
was.
the mask, there we go.
Yeah, it was hard, and but that's the challenge is
Yeah.
what I look for,
Got you.
It also changes the dynamic of racing when you've got assistance. You've got to push harder, go faster. Whereas Malimoto, you're just there to survive, and I'm the survivor. Can hang on for as long as I can and just push to get to the finish. Whereas you're racing in the normal class, you're pushing to get to the finish the first, and that's risk factor and my accident. And
Any 4 wheels tempting?
there we go. That's the start now. I'm putting my feelers out. It's not as easy and cheap as bikes.
Sure.
So that's where I'm trying to go towards.
Okay.
I've put it out. So if there's anyone listening that wants...
Toyota Gazoo Racing, Glen Hall, are you watching this one?
the first step would be
Intense.
to jump into a navigational seat, but I don't want to navigate. I
No.
can't even be a passenger in a car driving on the public roads. So I want to drive. So whether
Okay.
it be side by side or whatever opportunity
That'd be
arises,
amazing.
it's the transition is time to start now. So if I go back to Dakar and do 1 or 2 bikes, cool.
Yeah.
But eventually it will be car racing, which I want to get into. So safer.
Yeah, not as taxing on the body.
Yeah. No, listen, I think it can be hellishly taxing. I was speaking to some of the drivers at the marathon stage there, and they were saying with those dunes and the impacts, you come off a dune and you flat land onto a hard impact, and that
Really?
impacts your health.
Wow.
Yeah.
With the whiplash?
The whiplash in the head, and then also the impact. I mean, that's how Carlos signs. He's broken a few vertebrae.
Yeah.
It's that oof, that like landing
Wow.
compresses the
Okay.
spine. So yeah, obviously the physicality isn't is nearly as demanding as motorbike, but I don't take away from that in the car. You still
understand.
have to have some certain. I mean, look at how the Formula One guys work on their body, and it's an athlete's an athlete, whether
Yeah.
you're in a car or on a motorbike. It's still so yeah. That's the plan, and this motivational talking thing's really picking up. It's definitely a
Good for you. That's amazing.
yeah.
You've got a
it's-
great story. I'm also waiting for the book to come out.
Ooh,
sometime.
yeah, someone said to me you should write a book, and for me to read a book takes time. So now you want me to write one,
Same.
write one. But yeah, it's for now I'll still be still racing
Okay.
for as long as my body allows me to. That's also another
And how
thing.
is the body feeling after Dakar?
So actually, it's not as good as what I would have hoped it to be, but taking into consideration what it went through,
Yeah.
I'm really, really impressed with everything. But I actually went for tests because I started training 2 weeks after coming back from Dakar, and noted that my heart rate was extremely elevated for my level of exertion to
Yeah.
where my heart rate was showing, didn't match up.
Okay.
My heart rate was at 180 on a slight incline on my mountain bike.
Wow.
And 180 you should be out of breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I watch my heart rate all the time. And for me to I'm really fit. And I just hot off Dakar, I'm super fit now.
Yes.
For me to get my heart rate to 180 is I have to be pushing, sprinting.
Yeah. You red line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that for me was a sign. So we didn't carry on cycling, booked into the Cape Science Sports Institute,
Wow, it's a
and
great
went
place.
to see
Great
incredible
place.
the cardiologist there. Long conversations, what I'd been through. Turns out that I don't know if you know, I was very sick at Dakar. I got sick at stage 2, and it lasted up all the way to stage 9, stage 10, but the sickest I've ever been. I had COVID. Results came back positive, and there's obviously, you know, racing on with COVID at that intensity in that weather for that long, and being on antibiotics. You know, you're not supposed to exercise on antibiotics. You're supposed to exercise when you're
There
sick.
you're doing the toughest race.
Yeah, and
hats off to you. Wow.
Yeah, so I've come back now, and I've actually placed a bit of strain on my heart.
Okay.
It's all clear in the sense that there isn't any red flags, but my heart rate is running a lot higher than what it should be. So I've just got to take it easy for a while until my heart rate drops to match my level of exertion, which I know it will be. Like for me, walking upstairs, coming up your stairs here, out of breath. Sitting talking to you now, I'm at 90 beats per minute, where it shouldn't be like that.
I thought I had that effect on people, but it's clearly not that. So, but Kirsten, I'm glad that you're on the mend, and I just want to say I'm a huge fan.
Thank you,
I think what you've done is incredible. I hope it inspires a whole generation of people, not only to do Dakar, but to chase their dreams.
That's it.
If they want to be an astronaut, whatever it may be, a painter, that they actually, those people that tell them they can't, they say, well, screw you, I'm going to do it. So keep up the amazing work.
Thank you.
I want to come and watch one of your speeches, your talks. I think it'll be great. And yeah, man, keep on inspiring and doing what you're doing. And let's try and get some more money and stuff for Sam. And let's build that, because I think it's part of your legacy, like it or not.
Thanks for having me, CS.
Thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And as Tyler keeps warning me, please like and subscribe. And we're on iTunes. So hope you enjoyed the show. And Kirsten Landman, what a legend. And it's an honor to have had her in studio.